say this. And America is a little bit different than the rest of the world, particularly Europe, in this sense. Free speech is one of the most important values in the United States. You have a right to be an anti-Semite here. You have a right to deny the Holocaust. You have a right to be a disgusting, terrible person. There's no law that says you cannot say that. And I'm a believer of that. I am a believer of that. First of all, in a practical sense, I want to know who's out there who hates us. And by having them have the freedom to speak the way they do, I get a sense of where they are, who they are, and where we are. If we hide it and put it underground, I don't think it helps us. Nor does it help the conversation when you can say, look, they have the freedom of speech to be anti-Semitic. I have the freedom of speech to counter them in the wider world. So I'm not a big believer in outlawing denial of the Holocaust and outlawing anti-Semitism like the way Europe is trying to do as a fix. That's not the fix. You have to work with the underlying problem and why they're anti-Semites and where's that coming from. Putting aside Dr. Laitman's solution of that we have to be together as one will solve all the problems, which I agree, but in a more practical sense, look, my attitude for the Jews would be, you're going to see the first Seder in the White House, right? You're going to see all the Chagim will be practiced in the White House. It'll be both, I think, one of the greatest things for Jews to see an example of an Orthodox Jew in the White House. And I think also it's going to also bring about, I think, some very negative things. I think people start looking at, it'll highlight what the fear of a lot of the anti-Semites out there are. Look, the Jews are taking over. The Jews are taking over. In life, there's always duality. In life, there's always two sides that are trying to balance each other. That's life in general. Every religion, every culture has that concept, and it's true. With a Jewish president, you're going to see both the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang. And I think that's important. But I think ultimately, I make a pretty good president. So yeah, I think I'm pursuing it. So,
Dr. Laitman, in short, 1 minute, we want to let Ami go. If he would become U.S. president, what would your suggestion to him would be? With the first order of business, what should he do as president of the United States? Because I know you've written actually open letters to several presidents, I know.
I would advise Ami Horowitz to be a president for the whole world through being a president for the US and a president for the Jews. And so to really tell everyone, explain to everyone through a very broad educational system to the whole world where we have to go, that the whole world must work on its integrated interconnection. The whole world has to be connected because it's a law of nature. The natural law of evolution drives us to be one circle, one integrated connection between all human beings. And this is something that is a natural law that you can't want it or not want it. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. We're being pushed towards this. Now, in order to meet with this law of integrality, let's look at the still vegetative and animate levels of being. They're all interconnected and interdependent, and they are connected properly. It's only the human who is involved in everything in the world, who is corrupting everything, humanity, that is. And so there is one part of humanity which is like a representative of all of humanity, as I said, from the times of Babylon. It is a group that represents all of humanity. And that group has to make that model of connection. And then all of humanity will be able to follow that model of connection. And we will also come into balance with all of nature. That includes the ecosystem and everything else. When we, for instance, hear that Jews, voices yelling that Jews are to blame for the ecology, for even a hurricane that happens, it's true. It's indirectly, it's actually true, because any unbalanced forces in nature result from the lack of connection among human beings, since they're in the highest level in this hierarchy of natural forces. And that's what happens, that through our lack of connection, we cause imbalance throughout all of nature. It ripples throughout the system. And everything negative that happens is actually a result of that. So this is something that I would make sure to explain to everyone first. I wouldn't be worried about anything besides education. Educating human beings what it means to be connected, how to achieve that, and how that solves all the problems in the world. That is the main thing that we need. So we'll vote for you to be a president and realize this educational plan.